Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and this is going to be my team builder in battle for week 7 of the BBL. We're going up against the San Diego State Azelfs, coached by Perfect Blue. Please go check them out, link in the description below. We're looking to bounce back after a pretty tough week 6 loss. Went down 3-0 to Sparks the God. And yeah, so we can hopefully get a win here, but it's definitely not going to be easy. I think this is the worst matchup I've had all season. I said that a few times now. I said it versus Matt O'Shea, and that at the time that was true, and then I said it versus Bird, and I think that also at the time was true. But there's just so much firepower on Blue's team that I don't even really know how to deal with it. So let's look at his 10 mons, and then we'll go into our team breakdown and follow up, of course, with the battle. So Blue has on his team Pheromosa, Raikou, Mega Charizard X, Bruxish, Groudon, Tapu Bulu, Bisharp, Victory Bell, Clefable, and Probopass. So the grassy terrain plus Sun core has been it's been used quite a bit in probably the last year and a half or so. But you know, the fact that you could use Groudon in this case instead of something like Ninetales or Mega Charizard X is what makes it really spooky. So like Mega Charizard X in Sun is just so terrifying. And even though I have a couple of decent Flare Blitz switch-ins, it's a little bit hard to switch in when it's boosted in the Sun. Plus, with all the potential coverage options that Charizard could have, it's definitely a big threat. That, you know, is scary. Also, something that's scary is the Victory Bell. He could very easily run just Stabs plus Weather Ball plus Hidden Power Ground and deal with the vast majority of my team. It doesn't necessarily one-shot everything. Like, probably Garchomp and Arceus can take one. But like with sufficient chip on my team, I have very little chance of dealing with that thing for sure. Groudon by itself is scary just because my ground resists are pretty bad. Trevenant doesn't really check Groudon because it could easily pack Fire Punch, which would be boosted by the Sun. And then Zatsu and Archeops don't really count. It gets Rock Slide coverage, and I think it even gets T-Punch anyway. So yeah, not amazing in any case. So just some really hard things to switch into. Pheromosa also just decimates my team. Primarina is like my only thing that's close to a switch in. But Primarina I'm using in a different role this week. So yeah, basically I'm just relying on Priority and Scarfers to deal with Pheromosa. Yeah. So it's very challenging defensively. I do have some good offensive threats versus Blue. Like the Heat Train resists are not very good. Basically just Charizard and Bruxish. Bruxish doesn't really count. It's kind of an unmon in my opinion. It doesn't really switch in that well to fire moves. And then Charizard, yeah, it could have Earthquake for me, but it's a little bit pinched for coverage, and then I can hit it back with powerful Earth Powers still. And like just some of the obvious brings on my end, like Scarf Chomp, kind of deter Zard anyway from being like a really dangerous setup set. Maybe it could be SD. That's kind of what's scarier. That's what was pointed out to me by my front office. Shoutouts to the front office as always. We've got Jacob as always, Phantom Base, The Confusion, Ultra Player, Bronson, Omega, Jolteon, and Skyrander. So yeah, SD Zard could be really spooky. Let's hope that does not come. But enough lollygagging. Let's go ahead and look at this team. So I have a physically defensive Arceus Dark with Stealth Rock this week. I brought Arceus Dark physically defensive 2 weeks ago versus Bird. We're bringing it back again. Just because this can take 2 Precipice Blades from Groudon if I need. And then it's also just a relatively good switch into some of his other things as well. I say relatively, like major emphasis on relatively. Like he does have a couple of decent dark resists, being his 2 fairies, and then also Bisharp. Bisharp can't really threaten me that much in return, which is why I've elected not to pack coverage for it. I 3-hit KO with Judgment if he's not too invested. And then Sludge Bomb should one-shot most Tapu Bulus, and then does decent damage versus Clefable. But I liked this thing because I can pretty comfortably lead with it and get up rocks ASAP. Unless I have a good reason not to do so, like him not bringing Charizard. But like if he does have the Charizard, I just want those rocks up ASAP to prevent that thing from being a huge threat. And just in general, it'll be nifty for wearing down his team, because like I said, I do rely a bit on priority on this team in general. So anything that'll help me get his mons in range of priority will be very useful. But yeah, switch into unboosted Zard, switch into Groudon. What else? You know, Bisharp. You can switch in easily on Bruxish, Raikou, like basically anything that's not his fairy types, or his Pheromosa. So next I have a Scarf Chomp, with double ground moves plus Outrage plus Poison Jab. So Stomping Tantrum's there just in case we have to click it while, we have to lock ourselves into a ground move while Grassy Terrain is up. Outrage is there to hit everything that's not a fairy or a Steel type, and then P-Jab is there to hit his 2 fairies. So this was an obvious bring, like I said, to outspeed +1 Zard, to outspeed Pheromosa if it's not Quiver Dance, things like that. I'm hoping that he leaves Bulu on the bench, just because I do have 2 quad resists to Grass-type moves, being Scizor and Heatran, so it would be very nice to make that happen. But just in case, I thought I could have gone Dragon Rage or Stomping Tantrum in the last slot, but I decided to go Stomping Tantrum instead. Because, yeah, besides Bulu, his only other ground resist is like Zardex before Mega Evolving, right? I don't think there's any other ground resists on the team. Yeah, that's definitely it. So, like, just spamming ground-type moves could be very potent versus Blue, so I want to take advantage of that if I need. I have a fast max HP Heatran with Shuka Berry, with Taunt Protect, Magma Storm, and Earth Power. This should be a very safe switch-in to Tapu Bulu, and then it also should be my way of dealing with Victory Bell, because Victory Bell is very scary, that's for sure. We have Taunt and Magma Storm to prevent something like Clefable from getting really out of hand versus us. It'd be really nice to try and trap that thing to clear the way for potential Outrage sweep at the end game. And also just to make one less threat to my my Darcius. Protects to stall out Grassy Terrain, I might have just said that, but if I didn't, then that's what it's for. Yeah, so it's a very good one. Also, it's there for Zard in an emergency situation. So it doesn't live Precipice Blades from an Adamant Groudon, even with the Shuka Berry, so I'm not planning on using Heatran for that. But yeah, we do outspeed Bulu with this spread, and then just the rest into bulk stats. Next, we have a kind of funny Primarina. We actually have an Air Balloon Primarina with Scald, Moonblast, Ice Beam, into Encore. So this is my best way of dealing with Groudon, as dumb as that sounds. Because it doesn't have amazing coverage moves. Maybe, does it get Thunder Punch? I didn't even look it up, to be honest. It does get Thunder Punch, so he could hit me with Thunder Punch, but like most likely, like Precipice Blades is so free versus my team, except for like my flying types. So like it would be weird for him not to just use Precipice Blades to try and hit Primarina. But we can switch this thing in on it, and we can threaten it with, not our water move, because it's obviously going to be activating Drought whenever it comes in, but we do have Ice Beam to 2-hit KO it. And then just in general, like, Scald plus Moonblast is so good versus his team. So that's crazy. Encore is there, so, like, if he wants to like, let's say it's like a Rock Polish Groudon, for example. I'm not going to try and Encore its Rock Polish, but I do have my Air Balloon, so he has to lock himself into a move before hitting me up with Precipice Blades. So, like, if I switch it in, he goes for Rock Polish, then he'll try and break my Air Balloon with, like, Rock Slide or Fire Punch or something like that. If I can Encore it into that move, that puts me in a much more beneficial position. If it's Thunder Punch, I can switch into Garchomp. If it's Fire Punch, I can switch into Heatran or whatever. It's also there just to be annoying versus things like Clefable, which might like to just soft boil spam versus me. So that's the thought with Primarina. It's not a standard set, I would say, but hopefully it puts in work. Yeah, just like I wanted to be like a little bit of a switch in, but Primarina has been relied on too defensively the last several weeks. It's so good offensively, I want to start taking better advantage of that. Next we have a Fizz-Def Scizor with Aqua Berry. Just 3 attacks Roost. Aqua Berry is there for handling Clefable, mainly. We do not really live a Weather Ball from Victory Bell in the sun, so I'm not going to be using it for that. But it's also a very safe Bulu switch-in if we don't want to waste our Heatran on that. But just the priority in general as well makes it pretty nice for hitting Pheromosa. Like Bullet Punch from an Adamant Technician boosted Scizor, just going to do a chunk. This is like kind of my best Pheromosa switch in. I still take like 80 from High Jump Kick, which is so sad, but it is what it is. Yeah, just I need to make sure that the thing doesn't get out of hand. And then last but not least, we just have a max attack, max speed Medicham, like I've brought several weeks in a row. We're not packing Baton Pass this time, just because Baton Pass into Darcius isn't as punishing this week as it is in other weeks, since I'm not like a setup Arceus set. And then the double priority is, again, very nice for, kind of for Pheromosa, for a Groudon if it's chipped, potentially for Zard or for things like that. Not that Zard really cares that much about Bullet Punch, but again, if it's gone for rock, if it gotten hit by rocks and then gone for a setup move, like Fake Out plus Bullet Punch should do a lot if it doesn't outright kill. So that's like not trying to deal with a 100 HP Zard, but like a 50% HP Zard. But yeah, he just doesn't switch into this thing. The only unfortunate thing about a team like his that's like pretty scary offensively, abusing like terrain and weather, is that he doesn't have a lot of like good classic typings with good bulk. So like, for example, his medi switch in quote unquote is Bruxish, which is really hilarious. That's the only thing that can resist the dual stabs. And like, if you guys didn't notice, obviously that doesn't really resist it. It gets two-shot by High Jump Kick or Zen Headbutt. So it just applies tremendous pressure, and so yes, like offensively, like he has a lot of ways to deal with this, but like anything that is bulky, like should die to this. Like Clefable, that's Fizz Def, gets 2 KO'd by Zen. So that's the team. Definitely a scary matchup. I've tried to check everything defensively that I can while still maintaining good offensive pressure. So let's hop on into the battle. Alright, and I'm back with the battle versus Blue. This is actually now like a week after I recorded the team builder and played the battle. So thank you guys for bearing with me. It's funny also, I'm recording this like while watching the game on my DS rather than watching the like recorded Citra battle from Aaron, just because I'm coming up close to the evening and I want to get the recording done, and then I can just plug in the video later in post. So truthfully, I'm sure you guys don't care very much, but again, I just want to say thanks for understanding. But anyway, Blue has brought the Pheromosa, the Bruxish, the Tapu Bulu, Clefable, Raikou, and Groudon. So it's a relief not to see things like Victory Bell, which could have otherwise been pretty damn scary, just because I don't have great ways to deal with that. I have like my Heatran, yes, but my Heatran's also pressured by lots of other mons, so I'm going to have to be very careful. Or I would have had to been very careful, but now I don't have to be as much. It means that like my Shuka Berry isn't quite as useful as it otherwise might have been, but it's okay. Maybe he's packing like HP Ground on Clefable or something like that, or HP Ground on Bulu. A Superpower obviously makes the most sense on Bulu for hitting Heatran, but I digress. Heatran is looking pretty potent offensively in this matchup. That I can say for sure. The Bruxish, I guess, is kind of his only Heatran answer, which is funny. Bruxish is also kind of his only Medicham answer, besides like a Fizz-Def Clef, but like Fizz-Def Clef gets 2 KO'd by Zen Headbutt, so I don't know if that really counts or not. His best Primarina switch in is Tapu Bulu, so that's pretty nice. But again, I have to play very careful with Primarina, so that way the Groudon doesn't get out of control, because Groudon definitely wrecks my team. I have 0 ground resists. Heatran with Shuka Berry definitely does not live. I kind of have to rely on like Fizz-Def Arceus and like the Air Balloon Primarina, and then like Scarf Chomp, as long as he's weakened, can take it out, and probably Medicham can take out some variants with sufficient ship. But that's just the thing, I need to get ship, and in order to get ship, I kind of have to spend one of my offensive mons, so that's not exactly amazing. But yeah, I don't even remember what I led with here. I want to say I lead with Scizor. Just because it's good versus the majority of things on the team. Like, the only thing that I would be really scared of it facing is Groudon. But versus like something like Raikou can't run Hidden Power Ice to do a lot of damage to me. And Thunderbolt, like, unless it suspects Raikou isn't going to do a whole load to Scizor. But otherwise, I like it versus Klep, versus Tapu Bulu, versus Bruxish. I don't love it versus Primarina, but I should be able to threaten Bullet Punch versus, sorry, not Primarina, Pheromosa. It's a different mon that starts with P and ends with A. But I should be able to threaten it with Bullet Punch at least. So I'll poop my pants a little while I fear the High Jump Kick, but I'll still click U-turn versus that thing. So I'm pretty sure that Scizor is what I lead with. And with that, we'll hit play and get on into this battle. So good luck, have fun to Blue. And let's throw down and make sure that this is another exciting game in our season. So to be sending that challenge, and out comes that Pheromosa, like I said. So not amazing for me going with a Scizor lead, but he doesn't want to take a Bullet Punch, I'm sure, if he can help it. So I am just going to click U-turn, hoping that he pivots out, and he does pivot out into the Raikou. So good start for me, allows me to get some momentum. I can switch on out of here. I don't quite remember what I go into. I guess Garchomp, like what on paper is the best response for Raikou, but I'm pretty sure I go into something else. I do go into Arceus. Yes, because I get Arceus is like a physically defensive this week. It's just a bulky set with Recover and Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks I was prioritizing for the Charizard, which didn't even come. I didn't even mention that in team preview because it's been so long I don't recall the matchup. But yeah, the fact that I don't have to like worry about Zard is really nice. I don't have to be quite as careful with my Arceus. I can just stay in here and try and set up my rocks which is what I do as he throws out the Toxic. So getting poisoned, not amazing, but I don't quite mind. Then here I don't expect him to stay in. I'm expecting the Clefable to come in, and I do predict that going for Sludge Bomb, which is quite nice. The damage suggests that this is a Fizz Def Clefable. So like I was saying, that's sort of his best Medicham response. It's better than Bruxish, even though it resists both the stabs. Bruxish just doesn't have the bulk that Clefable has. So anyway, versus this thing, I'm happy to go into my Heatran, because I should be able to beat most variants of Clef. I do have the Taunt and Magma Storm this week to trap it and do a lot of damage to it, but he's not going to allow me to potentially trap him with Magma Storm. He's going to pivot on out into his Bruxish, and I'm going to hopefully hit this Magma Storm here, and we do miss. He does dodge, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but having just a tiny bit of chip on this thing would have been pretty clutch. But I am now going to switch on out into my Arceus, just because there's very little that Bruxish can do. He goes for Psychic Fangs versus Heatran. I'm not 100% sure what he was expecting to come in. Maybe Primarina. If that was what it was, then I think Psychic Fangs is a nice aggressive play. But he can't know, of course, that I'm Air Balloon Primarina. So I'm not going to be switching that thing in and potentially risking the Air Balloon. So that's fine with me. So I just throw off the Judgment here. And he goes right on into Clefable once again, and takes that quite well. So this thing is definitely his switch into Arceus, which would potentially be, like, if I was a slightly more offensive Arceus, that'd be pretty good, because I could then use this to wear down Clefable for Medicham or vice versa. But I'm not quite going to be able to do that because of how I structured my team. So I go into Scizor this time instead of Heatran, just trying to see if he does have Hidden Power Ground or anything like that. He does have Knockoff, and so that's kind of a relief to me, because depending upon what his last move is, he probably doesn't have a good coverage move for either Scizor or Heatran, because he's got to have Moonblast. He's showing Soft Boiled, and then he has Knockoff. So if that last move slot is something like Stealth Rocks, then that's really nice for me, because then that will mean that he can't hit Heatran or Scizor very hard. So anyway, the Raikou comes in versus Scizor. I go for U-turn, and I go into my Garchomp just because I know I can very easily revenge kill this thing. I go for Poison Jab in case he wanted to switch into either Clefable or Tapu Bulu. I would be able to do a ton of damage to either of those things. And he ends up just staying in, sacking off the Raikou. Maybe he was trying to go for HP Ice and hitting my Garchomp that way. But I do take him out, and it puts me in a slightly unfortunate position, because now he's able to bring in his Groudon basically for free. I've revealed my Scarf, and he has what should be a relatively free Precipice Blades, but lucky for me, I do have the Air Balloon Primarina, which is going to be able to switch in on this, and then throw off a very big Moonblast versus his squad. I don't go for Scald here because of the Sun, even though that would be a pretty good... Oh, sorry, I go for Ice Beam. I don't go for Scald because of the Sun, and so... Ice Beam was going to end up doing the most damage to Groudon. If you want to stay in and pop my Balloon, I could get off a really big chunk of damage. It may get so that Medicham or Garchomp or whatever could take it out. So versus this Clefable, though, Ice Beam doesn't do a chunk, but as you can see, Moonblast does nearly 50%, which is pretty wild. So he soft-boiled after taking my Ice Beam. But the nice thing is that I do have the Encore on this Primarina, and so I'm going to be able to make him spam soft-boiled. And it's potentially true that it's true that I can't beat him 1v1 necessarily, while he's soft-boiling up versus my Moonblast, just because I don't have quite enough special attack in order to do that. But at the same time, I'm at least wasting his PP, for soft-boiled, which is nice. And, he can't do anything to me in the meantime. So he's basically forced to either waste soft-boiled PP, which is not that bad in my book, or he has to go into something else and take a really big Moonblast. And he does choose to go into this Bruxish, which nearly drops to 0. So this is where having that Magma Storm damage would have been a little bit nice. I wouldn't have been forced to pivot out here. Because, again, I can't afford to have my Air Balloon broken versus this thing. And so I decided to go into my Scizor. Going into Arceus was also a pretty reasonable option. Maybe I wish that I had done that instead. But he does just go for a Liquidation. Pretty nice move on his part. He was facing down the Primarina. He could have gone for Psychic Fangs instead to try and get off the most amount of damage, but he knew that I was going to want to preserve my Air Balloon. So going for Liquidation allows him to hit the rest of my team the hardest, so that's quite nice. He throws off another Liquidation versus my Scizor, puts it into a kind of a low range of HP, and then I kill it with U-turn. For Scizor, as long as I have enough HP to throw off a Bullet Punch versus something like Pheromosa, it's pretty much okay with me, or versus this Clefable or anything like that. And I do U-turn on into Medicham, just because it threatens pretty much everything on the team at this point, besides this Clefable. And so, versus the Clefable, I do just decide to Mega Evolve and go for Fake Out, just to see how much damage it does, just to confirm that it is full Fizz Def, and that damage does suggest that it is. So versus this Mon, I can now switch on out into my Heat Train, I believe. Because, once again, like I said... Oh, no, I go into Scizor. Because it shouldn't die to a Moonblast. I don't really care if he goes for knockoff or anything like that. And I can throw off a pretty decent Bullet Punch versus this thing. Instead of saving his Bullet Punch for like Pheromosa, as long as I keep Medicham around and I keep one extra sack, even if I'm in a last Mon situation where I'm facing down versus Pheromosa, I can, how do you say, excuse me, I can go for the sack and then go for Fake Out plus Bullet Punch on my Medicham and take out the Pheromosa. So Scizor is nice to have, but I don't think it's need to have at this point. So I just go for knockoff because I feel like knocking off the Clefable's leftovers would be really nice, even if he chooses to stay in and go for another Moonblast. But instead goes into Groudon. I'm pretty happy to get that thing's HP down and its leftovers off anyway. I follow up for a Bullet Punch to bring it down to below 50%, so that's really amazing for me. I go into Primarina now. This might be, sort of, how do you say this? Might be biased in my retrospect here. But I go into Primarina because, he is either going to be forced to switch out again, or he goes for another move, like Fire Punch or something, to break my Air Balloon. But he goes for Rock Slide and actually gets the flinch. I don't hold that against Blue whatsoever. But it really sucks, because now my Primarina goes down completely for free. And so now I do go into Medicham. And this thing, based on the damage that it's doing to Primarina with Rock Slide and Precipice Blades, it should be very offensive. I don't know if it has any HP investment. I decided to go for Zen Headbutt because it's got a pretty good chance to kill. And then it also covers his potential switch into Clefable. And so we do end up knocking out the Groudon with the Medicham. Like I said, so I could have just gone into Medicham right away and clicked the Zen Headbutt, and then I'd still left my Primarina around. But I just felt like Primarina at the time was the safer play. It's just unfortunate that I got the 30% flinch chance. There's not much I can really do about that. But he does go into his Clef versus my Medicham. Makes sense. That's his best response. And then I go into my Heat Train because that's my best response. I do go for a Magma Storm here, and I do luckily connect. It does a pretty decent chunk of damage too, like 35-40%, and it is going to become trapped. And so after I go for the taunt versus this thing, I should be able to wear it down with my Magma Storm and with my Earth Power. He does get up his rocks, so him taunting, or I guess I could have taunted there. But just taunting, it wasn't I thought Magma Storm was better because either it traps his Clefable in here or it gets a kill on one of his remaining Mons. He has Tapu Bulu and Pheromosa left. So if I could have landed the Magma Storm on either of those and knocked them out, it would have been great. So that's really nice. But yeah, so now I have taunted this thing. I go for a Magma Storm. And I'm going to be able to do a pretty good chunk of damage to it. And now he goes for Moonblast. And I believe this turn, let's just wait a second and see. Okay, it's not this turn. This exchange ends up lasting for quite a number of turns. I'll probably end up fast forwarding through it, but this is when I started going on tilt in this game. So Magma Storm has a 75% chance to hit, but we miss a bunch of times on this Clefable, and because he's taunted and because his only other move is Knock Off, basically his best option is just to spam Moonblast versus me, which has like a 30% chance for special attack drop. So I think 4 times with Moonblast he gets a special attack drop versus me. I think this one here that you're seeing is the second. And so the fact that I'm getting all these special attack drops is making it very difficult for me to making it very difficult for me to kill this thing. And because of the Magic Guard ability, it's not taking any residual from the Magma Storm either. So yeah, like what should be like a fairly easy 1v1 for me with Heatran is turning out not to be. So I go for another Magma Storm, but I think at this point I am at least -2. And so he's able to take the Magma Storm. It's much better now. And I'm also getting really low on PP on Magma Storm. I think I have 2 left at this point, so that definitely sucks. And he gets another special attack drop here, so I think that's 3 now. And so I want to preserve the Magma Storm in order to try and trap this thing a little bit more. And because I'm kind of getting frustrated and flustered at this point, his taunt wears off, and I go for Magma Storm instead of clicking taunt once again. I wasn't paying attention, and he's able to get off a soft-boiled here. So I would have eventually worn him down if I could have prevented that damn soft-boiled, but like I was just getting like I was getting angry, Nothing against Blue. Once again, Blue's not doing anything wrong here. He's making the plays that he's supposed to make in order to survive. But now there's nothing I can do. This Clefable's back up at full HP. But anyway, he does switch out here, goes in Tapu Bulu, and like I said, this is where I actually click Magma Storm, because I thought there was a chance he might switch out. And it's worth it too, just to keep the Clefable trapped in versus the Heatran anyway. But wouldn't you know, I miss another Magma Storm. So the one on the Bruxish, the one on Tapu Bulu, and then 2 versus Clefable. I missed 4 out of 8 Magma Storms, which is just totally brutal. And then he follows up with Wood Hammer, which actually does not kill Heatran, which is pretty crazy. And I go for Taunt versus thing, just because, in case it's like a weird Bulk Up or Swords Dance set, I don't want him to get carried away with that. I do outspeed a non-Scarf Bulu, but he did go first, which means he is Scarf. But, I noted this in the match, and I'm like, okay, he outspeeds me. But, even though I noted it, I didn't quite register it. And so in a moment here, Heatran's going to end up going down. I don't think he can kill me with the next Wood Hammer, can he? I don't quite recall. No, he does kill me with the next Wood Hammer. But this is Scarf Bulu. And so the right play for me is to go into Garchomp and throw off the Poison Jab, which 2-hit KOs everything on his team. But instead, I freaking go into Arceus, because I want to throw off a Sludge Bomb, which also basically 2-hit KOs everything on the team. But no, he's able to kill me with Wood Hammer. And this is actually really shitty for me, the fact that I threw this thing away due to being on tilt. Because if I can kill the Bulu and the Clefable, and it's just his Pheromosa, as long as I have Medicham plus 1 other Mon, I can guarantee take care of that Pheromosa with Fake Out plus Bullet Punch. But because of that, I might not necessarily have a sack. I'm going to take out this Tapu Bulu with Poison Jab. And then, yeah, if he brings in his Clefable and he's able to 1v1 my Garchomp, then my Medicham can come in. Hopefully this Clefable's at a point where it can die to Fake Out plus then Headbutt. But then I have to somehow take a hit from a Z Pheromosa. And so I'm just trying to figure out how the heck that can happen at this point. And so I do land a crit on the Clefable, which is... it makes me feel good, but because I finally get a little bit of justice. But in the grand scheme of things, all it does is prolong the inevitable, because he's going to keep on soft-boiling until he gets up to max HP, which is the right play. He wants to be as full as possible to try and take a hit from Medicham as well as possible. So it definitely makes sense from his perspective, and so I don't begrudge him going for that here. It's the same play that I would make, but it does. But it's just annoying like, yeah, I was so salty about all the stupid Moonblast drops, and then misplaying with the Arceus just made me so angry. But yeah, like, by this point, my path to victory is to get this Clefable as low as possible with Garchomp, which is going to be probably about 55% after leftovers. Go into Medicham, Fake Out plus Zen Headbutt, and then try and live a move from Pheromosa. There's nothing else I can do at this point. It's just totally decided. He does finally go for the Moonblast versus Garchomp because he's going to be at about as much health as he can be. He actually doesn't kill me, which means we get to play this whole game over again. He's going to take my Poison Jab, and he's going to Soft Boil up as much as possible. I've not been counting Soft Boil PP at this point, just because I got so annoyed and I forgot to keep track. But it doesn't change the outcome here, and so I'm just going to fast forward to the last turn. Alright, so here comes the Moonblast from the Clefable. This is going to knock out the Garchomp. I don't know if he ran out of PP or not. He technically could have gotten slightly higher on health than what he is now. He's at like probably 45% or so, and then he's able to get leftovers to get back up to 50%. But like I said, Fake Out plus Zen Headbutt, assuming that I hit the Zen Headbutt, will be enough to take out this Clefable. It would be kind of crazy for him to go into Pheromosa, because like that plus Bullet Punch will kill Pheromosa, and then he can bring back in the Clefable. Clefable should still die to Zen from like 55%. I just went for the Fake Out to be very safe, for sure. So we do finally take out the Clefable with the Medicham. Medicham now has 2 kills, 1 on Groudon, 1 on Clefable. Then here comes the Pheromosa. So like I said, I basically just need to figure out a way to survive this hit. There's not like there's anything I can do. He's just gonna go for it. I go for Bullet Punch. I could have gone for Zen Headbutt, but it's for the 100% KO. But I figured that Zen Headbutt has a chance to miss. Bullet Punch should always 2-hit KO. Plus Bullet Punch has a chance to crit. It doesn't do quite as much as I expect, actually. This Pheromosa must have a fair bit of bulk investment, which makes sense considering it doesn't need it versus my team. So he's going to go for an all-out pummeling here. I do resist this on the bright side, but I certainly don't take it very well anyway, and I'm going to live on 8 HP, and that's going to be just enough for me to throw off a second Bullet Punch here on the final turn, and that's going to net us a 1-0 victory. So when it was all said and done, I don't know that this match would have ended up being different than a 1-0 if I hadn't misplayed, because like I was explaining, having the Darcius in the back meant that in that endgame scenario versus the Pheromosa, I could, if my Medicham is in, I could sack Darcius, go into Medi, and then go for Fake Out plus Bullet Punch for the kill. But it just made it a whole lot closer than it had to be because he could have potentially killed with the all-out pummeling. So that was very nerve-wracking. And then all the whole thing with the Clefable just made me angry because, again, like, yes, I was getting hacks, but it was that I misplayed and I didn't taunt it when I was supposed to. That's what made it really crappy, because he was able to get off the soft-boiled and 1v1 my Heatran, my stupid Heatran. And having that Clefable around was really annoying for all 3 of my final Mons, Garchomp, Darcius, and Medicham. So if I hadn't played so bad there, that would have really helped out. And also, if I would have helped if I didn't get freaking 4 Moonblast drops and also 2 misses with Magma Storm. But anyway, you have to deal with the hacks, right? So if I had just taunted, I still would have won that exchange, but I didn't because I'm bad, and I got tilted too easily. But shout out to Blue, he knew that I was salty during that match, but he was still a good sport about it. And the fact that we were able to come away with a dub even after all of that helps as well. Like, I would have been really, I would have had to take a little break from Mons for a few days if I ended up losing it because of that. But yeah, real shout outs to Blue, total class act. Make sure you go check out his channel down in the description below. So that's going to elevate us to a 5-2 record going into week number 8. Next week we play Super Suna Arashi, coach of the Groningen Noctowls. And so Make sure you guys stay tuned for that video next week. Best way to do that, of course, is to like this video and to subscribe. And that'll, of course, help you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest Pokemon content. And a little bit of a preview for you guys. We do have MPL starting up very, very soon. And our draft analysis is going to be going up probably in the next 2 weeks for that. So if you're a big fan of the MPL, again, make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of that and all my other greatest and latest Pokemon and gaming content. So until the next time, I will see you guys later.